One of the first ever ships that I bought from the market was a Kestrel, basically on day one when the game was officially released 3 years ago. And honestly, I did like the Kestrel back then, although the ship didn't have and still doesn't have any medium slots. So, very happy to be flying the Kestrel Navy for today. And I do expect this little boat to perform really well. Now, it has the same camouflage pattern as the Raven Navy. After all, this is a Navy ship. And I do expect it to perform very similar to the Garmur, although the Garmur has a bit more scramble range and I believe it has a bit more speed. But first, let's take a look at the trait description. Roll bonus, plus 20% small missile torpedo activation time, minus 20% damage controller activation delay, plus 6 seconds damage controller activation time, and minus 20% warp drive signature radius penalty. Expert small missile torpedo operation bonus per level will give you plus 30% small missile torpedo damage, plus 5% small missile torpedo flight velocity, plus 75% small missile torpedo explosion velocity, which are overall some decent stats for the missiles, should hit really hard. Expert Frigate command bonus will give you plus 5% flight velocity, and the Expert electronic warfare plus 5% scan resolution and plus 5% center strength. Overall, a solid trait description for this boat. Now it has 3 high slots, 3 medium, 3 low, 3 combat, and 3 engineering rigs. 5.2 thousand is the overall defense, primarily a shield tank. It has a decent capacitor, recharge time 240 seconds, recharge rate is 7.17 gigajoule per second. Definitely not the best capacitor recharge out of the 5 Navy frigate, but it is not bad. And I have to say that this thing should be quite fast, since it has a bonus on velocity, and overall it is a quite speedy boat in the stats as well. The Navy ships are quite fast, the Navy frigates are quite fast. So, the build I have, now on this ship I have the Republic Fleet small missile launchers, and here you can take a look at their stats. Now the missile launchers, the C-types, are really expensive. And I would say if you're aiming for a cheaper build, definitely the Republic Fleet launchers will do really well. Now, as for the medium slots, now this ship is kind of imagined to be a long-range kite. So have one long-range disruptor, you can use a target painter, or you can replace the painter with a defensive scrambler. You can also use a web, also can be used for defense. And you also can use any other electronic warfare module, guidance disruptors, dual points. And you can do a dual point build. And depending on the target, you can switch between a dampener to make the target lock slower, or you can use the guidance disruptor or a tracking disruptor. Overall, all of the options are really nice and look really good on this ship. Now in the low slots, 1 micro warp drive, adaptive shield hardener, and a damage control. Overall, that should be the default layout for all of these ships. As for the rigs, triple loading bay accelerator and triple auxiliary thruster, but you can change the build to the build that will suit the ship in your case, in the best way possible. Now the main problem is the power grids, and you can't really put medium modules on this ship. Now, the Rifter and the Kestrel Navy have the worst power grid out of the 5 Navy frigates. So, if you want to use a medium booster, for example, you really have to change those engineering rigs quite a bit in order to be able to fit one. However, you can easily do that, and the ship will still be quite speedy, since it has a bonus on speed, so you can technically sacrifice some of the rigs for extra power grid. But yeah, one of the ways how to build this thing would be with a medium extender. Now, the thing with the new modules, some of the new modules, especially the new extenders, or in this case, shield generators and lightweight armor plates. Now, I was told that they use less power grids, 100 megawatts on the medium shield field generator, on the medium shield generator, not field generator, my apologies. However, the same extender has 68 megawatts, so if you do go with the power rigs, then the normal extender would definitely be the way to go, since fitting a 100 megawatt shield generator on the Kestrel might not work. However, with the armor plates, it's actually quite different. 60 megawatts is the armor plate on the this is the new titanium armor plate, the new ones that have been added in this update. So they are lightweight and they cost less power grids than a medium shield extender, and definitely less power than the shield generator. And the armor plate is about 100 megawatts, so 68 megawatts for the armor plate and 60 for the new lightweight one. Now, definitely don't armor tank this ship. It's not a armor tank, it should be a shield tank. No, you can do a build like this and focus a bit more on the DPS. So let's undock and let me show you the active stats on this thing. Now, I do expect this ship to be a bit faster than the previous frigates because of the rigs. I think only the Rifter has a good chance to be faster than this thing, since, you know, it's a Mimata ship. Although the Kestrel Navy is built to be a kite, and I feel like this ship has been built to avoid taking damage. Now, 4.3 km per second is definitely not slow, and honestly, for kiting, this will do really well. Now, this is definitely not the maximum top speed. You can break 6 km per second with different rigs with better skills and with a nanocore, but that's definitely more than enough speed to kite your targets, and they are not going to be able to hit you that well, since you can use a guidance disruptor or a tracking disruptor to disrupt their weapons. Overall, already liking this ship quite a bit, and I can see the Kestrel being really fun to fly as well. Now, the tank isn't really the best. That's one of the things where this ship does kind of fall on the lower side. The Punisher Navy, even the Rifter, both these ships have a decent tank. Even the Tristan Navy seems to have a better tank than this thing. However, the other ships are slower. So with this thing, you can easily kite, and your goal would be to avoid taking any damage. If you do take damage, you still have the damage control that can save you for 19 seconds, and by then you should already be out of danger. Now, let me also do a close range build. Now, for a close range build, I would definitely change a lot on this ship. First and foremost, I would change the combat rigs just to add a bit more tank. And then I would probably change the engineering rigs so that I have more power in order to fit a medium extender or a medium shield generator. So let me quickly assemble. Now, for a close range build, a scrambler, dual scramblers and a web are usually the choices. However, you can also pick any other module that you like, but dual scramblers and a web are usually the two most important aspects for brawling. Should be quite decent. Now, you can also slap a afterburner, and for the remaining third slot you can add a extender if you have power for it. You can add a shield booster if you have power for it, but you should have a damage roll equipped at all time, and in my case, since I don't have power, I have a adaptive shield hardener installed, which should help at raising the tank on this thing by a little bit, and you also have the damage control, so you still do rely on speed, but in this case you also have to rely a little bit more on the shield in order to survive. Now, once the shield is gone, the ship is dead, so make sure that you end the fight or warp out if necessary before the shield is down. I would say start to prepare to warp when the shield hits 30%, since even a little bit of even if a little bit of damage goes through the shield, it will be crippling to the armor, since this is a Caldari ship and their armors and hulls aren't really the best. The 1.9 kilometer per second is the afterburner speed, which so far I think it's the best speed that I got from out of all the Navy frigates that I have tested out, and 22.9 thousand hit points with the damage control active, which honestly is pretty good. 2294 shield hit points, and some decent resistances to go along with it. Pretty good, and I am quite happy with the result. Now let me dock and let me do some more builds. Now this ship gave me a lot of ideas, since missiles are really good now. I mean, they have been good for a while, but missiles are really performing really well now, especially on the new ships. And this ship has a bonus on damage application, so it will definitely apply that damage really well. If you have an implant, that's going to be even more noticeable. You can definitely make a little beast out of this. Now you can do a dual propulsion build. The idea with a dual propulsion build is to basically use the micro warp drive to quickly reach the target, and then use the afterburner to orbit around the target. However, with this build I will definitely add a little bit more tank to the ship. That definitely would enhance the resistances, would change. Maybe it would add one very cheap integration to cover the resistance hulls on the ship, so that it is not as fragile as this. But the transition to the afterburner from a micro warp drive is really smooth and really responsive. This ship is very fun to fly in that aspect. You can easily switch from the micro warp drive to the afterburner, and it's not going to lose much momentum, not going to lose much agility. It is transitioning between the micro warp drive and afterburner very fast. Same can be also said when transitioning from the afterburner to the micro warp drive. It does remain the momentum, it still has very nice mobility. This is a very mobile ship. I mean, it needs to be expected. This is a frigate after all. And with this build, you can easily get to the targets and orbit with the afterburner. Works for a lot of targets, but I would still avoid fighting serpenty ships for the most part for a close range build, since if you can't get close to them on time, you might be dead. So for serpenty ships, for a Daredevil for example, definitely a long range build, since that will be able to get to the Daredevil with the missiles. Now you can also add one. Well, if you have a power grid, you can easily add one medium extender, which will extend the shield quite a bit. You can also add a general unit on top of that, so that your shield is even stronger, and you also can add a ballistic control if you like. If you want a full-on glass build, a ballistic control is definitely the way to go. Although not entirely a glass build, but yeah, you do enhance the DPS by reducing the tank a little bit. And you can also do the same build with a long-range kite build. Basically, you have a micro warp drive and an afterburner. If it happens that something does get within the scramble range and you are a kite, you can scramble them, web them, and basically move outside of their scrambler and web range. Since if they have a micro warp drive and if they get scrambled, you have more speed than them, and you can easily dictate the orbit and the range, which is in a lot of cases quite useful, especially when you get caught by surprise or when you're fighting a target that's faster than you. A scrambler as defense is always a very nice idea, and an afterburner is also interesting. Now here is the current nanocore that's available. I really hope that they will add more nanocores very soon, since there's a lot of nanocores for the ordinary Kestrel that is not used, and they can definitely find use in the new Navy frigates. Overall, I have to say I'm really happy with this boat so far. It's interesting and does kind of feel like the Garmur in a way. Okay, now for a PvE build, this is where things get a bit uncomfortable for this ship. Now, when I say uncomfortable, if you want to have an active tank, then yeah, you definitely want to change the engineering rigs to add more power grid, and even that might not be enough to be able to have a medium extender. Now, you want ideally to have a small Nosferatu, a web scrambler, and a medium booster, and all that does take quite a bit of power grid. So there is a good chance that with this ship, one of the valid solutions for PvE would be to Kite. So basically, the PvP builds that I show you can also be used for PvE. The goal is to basically speed tank the targets, avoid any damage, and orbit and use the long range missiles. But you can do something like this, and it should look like this if you decide to go with a medium booster with a different engineering rig layout. Honestly, I can see this work, since after all this is a shield tank ship. Definitely don't armor tank the Kestrel Navy, because it's not going to work really well. And you can also add a ballistic control, which will enhance your DPS a little bit. If you have an implant, then it will be even higher. If you have better skills, then your DPS will be even higher. And if you have better modules, C-types, B-types, A-types, then your DPS, of course, will be much higher than what I show you here. So let's see how this boat performs. Now, this brings back some memories. I used to fly the Kestrel a long time ago. If you go back 2 or 3 years, I think you can find a video where I was doing PvE and PvP with a Kestrel. Basically, I remember fighting with a destroyer. I think it was a armor destroyer. The problem that I had at the time in that PvP battle, I didn't have any medium slots, so I wasn't able to hold the destroyer. The only reliable thing that I had was basically orbit, and I was winning. I was winning in most cases. So that was one of my earliest PvP experiences in the game. Surprisingly, in a Kestrel, and I think I still have the ship. That Kestrel is still alive somewhere in one of my old high-sec homes. I mean, I never sold it. I have it because it's still with the original build somewhere. I think the system is very similar, like in name, to Salt, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it. But yeah, that is my experience with the Kestrel at the time. Now this ship is of course a lot better, has a lot more DPS, it is faster, and it has a lot more module slots. So that is a very interesting comparison. Of course, I still say that they might be buffed. They're kind of missing, if you ask me, they're missing a little bit of damage control time, a little bit of hit points, although the current hit point amount is not that bad. But if we look at Navy battleships, I did kind of expect something similar. In terms of how much resistance they will have, so good chance that they will be buffed at one point, and I would actually say it might even happen in the next like couple weeks. That's just what I expect. Doesn't have to happen, but I feel like there is definitely room for improvement. And these ships are definitely made to be used with the new modules. The new shield generators, and the new armor plates are definitely, they definitely look like they're made for these ships, and they're still like none of the market, none of these new modules on the market, because everyone is currently focused on killing each other in the wormhole space, in the drone region, in the drone lands. It's not wormhole space. Wormhole space is something else also going to be added in this game. I believe when they open up the rest of the drone regions, that's where it will become I would say a bit more accessible to everyone, since there's going to be a lot more wormholes, and a lot more wormholes means less traffic within. When I say less traffic, I think we all know that the current wormhole entrances are camped, very camped. I've seen one entry with about 12 dreadnoughts on them or something like that. Kind of hilarious. I mean, it's just a matter of time until a wormhole pops out that's basically in the middle of nowhere, and that's when I'll have a very fun time going in. Since right now, unless you're part of a big alliance who controls the entrances, you can't really go in, and that will definitely change when more of the regions are opened. More open regions means again less traffic, because there's going to be entrances that are going to be camped, of course, but not all of them, so you will be able to sneak in easily and basically have fun. Then overall the update has been pretty good and very fun so far. I have seen a lot of action happening recently. There's a lot of combat, and it's just going to be getting better and better. I already told you that, but I'm more excited for wormhole space than I was excited for the drone lands. I mean, I was always excited for the wormhole space. That is what I was waiting for in this game. Okay, well, my microphone getting disconnected for a second. My apologies. So I was always like excited for the wormhole space a lot more than I was excited for the drone region. Although I was quite excited when I heard that they'll be releasing a new region. And I mean, by now it's no secret that I personally plan to move in the wormhole space. That I talked about that a long time ago, and I do plan to fulfill that. A good practice run will be going inside the drone lands, and I'll also, like I said, have plans for that. The main problem with that would be finding a wormhole where you can just go in without being killed, since right now you don't really get a timer when you enter. Can be killed instantly, so have to be very careful with entering, and you also have to exit when you go in, so it goes kind of both ways. But yeah, wormhole space is, I mean, they can already confirm that it's coming, so yeah, that's one other extremely exciting thing to wait. After all, I mean, a lot of players are quite happy with the drone lands. And one thing that I personally don't really kind of like, although it was kind of, to be expected. I don't really like the fact that it's only like one small region. No, it's not necessarily small, but when you gather like, I don't know, about 600 players in such a small region, yeah, it's no longer like it's no longer exactly unpopulated. It's going to have players everywhere, and that's currently the case. Getting there is kind of very dangerous, and I like it, honestly. I do like it. So far it's been really good, and when the rest of the drone lands is open and when more wormholes are out, then that's the moment where a lot of other players are going to be able to go in and basically go in and don't have to worry about stumbling upon 70 capitals just waiting for you. So yeah, that's very, I mean, that's also one of the. I think that's going to be the better update. Now, the first like release was good, but the next one that will complete the Thronelands is going to be even better, since it's larger, a lot more systems, and a lot more wormholes. So yeah, and the other wormhole space, the other wormhole that lead to the wormhole space, I don't know. Hoping that it's going to be added within the next couple months. I mean, judging by the speed at which they're launching stuff, that's definitely going to be the case for hopefully October to December, or even early next year. So yeah, it's definitely exciting times are ahead. And of course, we did receive new ships with, I believe, almost every new update now. 6 new ships in this update, actually. 5 Navy ships and that one new young ship. So again, fun times are definitely ahead, and more ships are going to be added. Probably. I mean, that's just what I expect to happen at this moment. But yeah, I don't know about Titans. Maybe, maybe not. Although, to be honest, I don't really see Titans launched before the wormhole space at the moment. I might be wrong, but at the moment I don't really see that happening. Not with the current dynamic change that the developers took. They're now adding other things. I don't see new capitals being added. At least not for the foreseeable near future that can last up to a couple months. But yeah, quite a fun update. I was pleasantly surprised. I honestly expected for the last like couple months, ever since that Ask Me Anything event that the developers held, I was expecting Titans, and I already had plans to do a Titan video for this period, but apparently that's not happening. Well, not happening now, but that will probably happen at one point in the future.
Autopilot engaged.
Sounds a bit vague, yeah, I know, but that's just what I expect. They could change. They can change their approach again, although I don't see that happening for now. Alright, well, that was the Kestrel Navy. Very fun little ship. It does kind of feel like the Garmur, a tankier version of the Garmur. And yeah, had fun flying it. Pretty interesting little boat. And if you would like to try one out, well, definitely would say definitely try out the boat. You might like it, I don't know. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. That was a very interesting little ship to record. And with that being said, I love you all. Stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.